All right, welcome back. And Randy and I are meeting here another week and going through step three of the recovery process. Randy has been very generous with his time in being able to articulate his modification of the 12-step process. And I'm going through my own journey here with the Under Earners Anonymous 12 steps. So just a reminder, this is just a casual conversation, so it's nothing polished. It's not like a big presentation or anything with a lot of bells and whistles. It's just a conversation that we're letting you in on, and all of the time that you spend listening to this, you can receive credit for it at the Karmic Margin Call Project Time Bank. And as that system and that teaching is starting to circulate, you'll understand more and more how just listening to these conversations leads to emergence, new economic infrastructures, and potentially even an income. So I'll talk more about that later on as we go through the steps. But Randy, how you doing? We'll just start with how are you arriving and what are you bringing today? How are you feeling and what's your intention for today?
I feel well. What am I bringing today? Well, the principle behind step three is willingness.
Mhm.
So I'm willing to see what comes without having any expectations.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, I am also arriving as well to having had a very productive week in that I'm seeing kind of how the my inner journey and my inner realizations is converging on the external experiences of my relationships and the deepening of business partnerships even. So that's been really neat, and I'm just letting it go, letting it happen. So it's just kind of with the previous steps that we discussed, kind of submitting our will, to a higher power, whatever that means to us. So yeah. So why don't we just start out with you, Randy? Why don't you read off your third step, and I'll let you expand upon that, and then I'll talk about the third step in Under Earners Anonymous that I've been noticing as well.
And here we go.
Good.
And if anybody can hear this in the background, we have puppies in the house. So,
I can't hear them at all. So
oh, good. Okay. Now they're just, again, making puppy sounds. So anyway, step three, the way as I've interpreted it, is
Mhm.
we decided to accept that we could not control everything, claimed a mindset of goodwill, and began to seek our authentic voice within.
Mhm.
So this is embracing acceptance, goodwill, the wisdom of others, while seeking our own authentic inner voice, which we'll elaborate more in the conversation what I mean by our authentic voice.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we'll have some fun exploring that.
Yep, very good. Very good. Yes. And in the Under Earners Anonymous step three, it says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. So I'll start off this conversation by saying that when I was a teenager, a lot of my intentions as a preteen and a teenager was to become a minister. And then I started really getting into drama and acting and that kind of a thing. And where I first kind of came in contact with this, a decision to turn our will over to God. I would always pray every night. It's just like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be successful or anything like that. But I promise that whatever comes my way, I will do it for good or for God's will. Now my my understanding of God has certainly evolved over my adult life, but yeah, this again coming back to this understanding of acceptance or surrender. to this higher power. How do we make that decision, or what has been your experience, Randy, about making a decision to turn the will over to the care of source, higher power, God, as it's worded here, as we understand God?
Well, and I'm glad you emphasized the word decision. Okay,
Mhm.
this is now myself when I was going through this, I considered this to be so monumental. I look back at it and it's kind of silly right now, but I thought that I had to understand God before I could make this decision. This well, it is a commitment, but yeah, it was so. I went to church and I started becoming very, very intentional, reading the Bible and such. And if that's your path, again, as long as it's authentic and it's true for you, you're not doing it for someone else, then that's probably going to lead you to someplace greater than you could ask for or imagine. But on the other hand, if somebody's kind of, I don't know, coercing you to go this route, well, I'm going to say it's inauthentic.
Right.
So anyway, how someone goes about making a decision that comes from the head and the heart and
Mhm.
again, it's back to words that we were talking about before of acceptance, surrender and such, all that kind of stuff. It gets, again, for myself, it got very, very overwhelming. And it got so much, I was overthinking it
Mhm.
that I just kind of I give up. You know, um, it was not in a church, it was in the side of my truck. Um, I was burned out. I just said, God, you take my life. You can't fuck this up any more than I have. And again, I hope that didn't offend any of the viewers, but those were the words that I said. It wasn't holy. It just was a matter of like, I don't know, maybe saying uncle if
Yeah.
I was wrestling with someone. Okay, you got me kind of thing. Um, really beyond on words and such, but that was for myself. I've had people share their experiences with it, and it's deeply personal. I guess lots and lots of words to say. How you do it is not as important as eventually coming to the point of like going, yeah, I don't have everything. Again, why use the word control and such? It's like I don't have everything in control. In fact, actually, things are kind of out of control, or
Yeah.
maybe they're totally out of control. And just and it's like, okay, fine, I accept this. I can't seem to pull this in. So maybe, hopefully, this decision will make things stop going in the downward spiral.
Mhm.
But again, it's really personal and it's really beyond words. A lot of this stuff that we're talking about um, is beyond words.
Yes.
It's, because again, that's knowledge. And if you haven't gone through this personally, you don't really, man, it's kind of like being in love.
Mhm.
We can talk about being loved, so we can read poetry, we can listen to love songs and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't resonate with you until you've actually gotten into the middle of all of it.
Yes.
And it's very similar with this process until you've waded out deep into the water, and are willing to just kind of again, we're up to our necks, but am I willing to dive in and get under the water line and such? You have to get immersed into this stuff, and it's for me it was scary, and a lot of other people have kind of shared because it's uncertain. We've never done it before. So if the listener here is kind of struggling with this all this stuff, um, perhaps if there's any advice I can give is just allow it to come. It will likely come at some point in time. Um, if you're sincerely desiring to get to the other side of this, as I've been referring to this as a fresh start. If you sincerely desire a fresh start in life, um, they're set into motion the change,
Yeah.
and it will never ever come as quickly as you want it to. Even if you're a patient person, it just takes a long time. At least, again, back to my there, and it probably will be different than you envisioned. It's like, yeah, if I do this step now, all of a sudden, no more suffering, no more pain, no more out of control kind of stuff. No, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the case.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I'm becoming aware of, just in what you just shared too, Randy, as well too, is that maybe making a decision is just making the decision for the day. What I'm aware of at this moment is my decision to hand my will over, or hand responsibility over, is really like, well, wait a minute, am I listening to Randy right now through my own agenda, or am I listening in a way where I'm receiving what you're offering? And it is a lived experience. It is the kind of thing where um, when you get in the middle of it, you're going to be disoriented. And to take that even a step further, again, when I was a teenager and a young adult, I used to teach self-defense. And my first lesson to them, having been in fights before where it didn't matter how much training I had, if I was in a fight with somebody who was angrier than me, and and more, had more of that anger in them, they were going to have an advantage. And so what I taught, the first lesson I always taught is, no amount of lecturing or teaching is going to get you good at this. The only way you become competent at this is getting your ass kicked, a couple of, at least a couple of times. And even then, it becomes, if you're disoriented, this is really the path towards being able to become mindful during that disorientation. So I think that's what comes up for me when it comes to this kind of interaction, when I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, am I trying to lead this? Am I trying to put an agenda on this? Or am I really taking in what somebody else is saying and reflecting back and asking clarifying questions? To me, that's the decision I'm making at this moment, to turn responsibility over to source or God or whatever placeholder name you want to put on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, the principle underneath this is willingness. So to recap, kind of honesty is the first step. That's the principle of the first step. The second step principle is open-mindedness, and this is willingness.
Mhm.
And I can remember this, there's the acronym of HOW. This is kind of how this is done. We approach this with honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And it's amazing how things do come together when we relax and are at ease and we stop trying to control outcomes.
Yeah.
And again, it's got to be a lived experience. Again, I'm not talking about to this that you're going to be walking on water, turning water into wine, kind of miracles and such. But if again, myself as an alcoholic, the ability to not just stay sober, but now actually being okay with it and flowing with it as opposed to resisting and fighting it. It's
Mhm.
now we could look at it from a psychological perspective and such, and it's not anything, I don't know, magical about it in regards to it. So perhaps maybe the language is saying a miracle is a change in perception.
Mhm.
A Course in Miracles talks about, hey, it's a Course in Miracles. What's a miracle? Well, it's a change in perception. So, how that exactly looks is unique to every person.
Mhm.
For myself, it involved no longer feeling that I was powerless. As in the previous issues, again, I had a powerlessness problem with admitting powerless. It was offensive. It rubbed me the wrong way because of my ego. Um, and all of a sudden, it's not such a problem. It's not, I wasn't fighting the process as much anymore. And that was, again, for a guy who is very stubborn, very hard-headed. I am a recovering know-it-all as well. To all of a sudden no longer demand that I have all the answers, and I no longer demand that things work out the way that I prefer. And guess what? I'm okay. In fact, actually, on some days, I'm more than okay. So it was again for the listener here. That's what I mean by a change in perception. It doesn't mean upside down is now right side up or anything like that radical. Although who knows? It might be that you see everything in a whole different contrary way.
Mhm.
It could be though just something as simple as, yeah, you know what? Me being right in this conversation is no longer important. I've
Yeah.
had 1,000 conversations with my spouse, and I always have to win those conversations. And this time, suddenly, almost miraculously, I don't need to be. In fact, actually, I'm listening to him in a no, new way, and I'm hearing him in a way I'd never have heard him before.
Yeah.
Which again does not necessarily mean what many people consider of the metaphysical. You could think of it as a psychological, cognitive behavior therapy and such. It really doesn't matter necessarily how you arrive at this. It's just, again, it's just going to happen. That's, I guess, really what I want to be for those that are struggling with this. It will come if you allow it. And for me, it came when I no longer demanded it. It
Right.
didn't have to happen.
Right. Right. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing that it comes back to that attachment, that attachment to an outcome or an expectation, like you had articulated last week. Um, the building blocks or the basics for me is I often ask the question, am I listening to understand rather than listening to interject? And what that does is it comes back to appreciation and curiosity. Um, and that's a difficult muscle to develop if you're not used to it, especially in this culture where um, oftentimes our culture rewards us for being right or for being dominant or for being a part of that hustle culture. And coming back to what came up for me as well too is the difference between performance and authenticity. Performance, there's kind of like a push to it, there's a pressure to it, there is a need to be right, there is a need to have all of the answers. The authenticity is, to me, is more of a flow to it, more of a an acceptance. It's okay not to have all the answers, it's okay to ask for help, it's okay it's acceptable to be in the pause, to be silent, to breathe. It's okay not to be perfect. When we do step 4 here in a little bit as well too, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about taking moral inventory, and that it's okay to struggle. It's okay not to be polished. And I think looking at the systems that kind of reward that behavior, as opposed to cultivating the environments now where you don't have to be a know-it-all, but you can articulate your own emergence in being a recovering know-it-all, which is something I happen to relate to as well too. Can be where the time investment can help, can be of assistance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and is the little bit that I understand of under Earners Anonymous, again, we're when we're going through their process, because so they also do, again, the research I've done, they research, or excuse me, they reference AA's big book,
Hmm.
which is fascinating.
Hmm.
Um, so I have to again kind of look at the spirit of what this is. It, the abstinence from alcohol has very little to do with this. Oh my gosh, I've got Bailey, the mother of the pups, right now.
That's okay. This is mirroring my experience last week when my son was in the
Yeah.
picture as well too. So
So,
go on.
but the spirit of Under Earners Anonymous is getting to is like what has caused a person to conclude that they're not worthy of having a life of prosperity.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the thing that we'll explore more and more getting into this authentic voice. It does not necessarily, prosperity for me, I've clarified it in my book that it's inner prosperity and it can lead to external prosperity. So inner prosperity is being comfortable in your own skin.
Mhm.
It's not having to be right. For myself, my demand of always being right was to offset my insecurities and such. So it's a process of overcoming a lot of emotions and such. And as I alluded to in a previous one, what we're recovering is the courage to have a fresh start in life.
Mhm.
So if we would reference, say, the serenity, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can.
Mhm.
Okay, so again, serenity, the peace of mind is just going to be a calm. Again, the emotions are not intense. Okay, things I can't change. There's so many things that are beyond our control. But
Mhm.
again, the courage to to change what I can, and we'll get into that more in the process. But what I would again referencing everything so far has been a discussion. It's been again, we're increasing our awareness of the problem. We're increasing our awareness of the solution, and now we've come to a point where I go, I'm willing to experiment.
Mhm.
Let's see if this proposed solution having a spirit this process that will lead to a spiritual awakening, a change in perception about myself and my relationship with life. I'm willing to give it a shot. And as you framed it up, one day at a time, the best I can today, I am willing to be guided by something that, again, I reference as insight, inspiration, could be also called instinct as well. It's that moment of clarity when all of a sudden you see things differently. So again, there's an emphasis on what's going to transpire here, in my opinion,
Mhm.
is a change of perception about who we are and our relationship with life.
Yeah.
And again, from my lived experience, that is where everything changes. It is like a new pair of glasses has come on. You may not have even known you needed a pair of glasses. It's just kind of sort of like, yeah, I'm having a hard time reading the menu kind of thing. Whatever it may be that leads you to think that maybe you should go to the optometrist and get checked out. You put on the new pair of glasses and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. And myself and so many other people will reference, I should have done this a long time ago, which again, using that analogy of a pair of glasses is somebody may go, it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this a long time ago? I can see everything clearly right now.
Mhm.
So that's the best I can use, come up with words at this moment of what the process is going to do. Is we're going to get into the action steps
Mhm.
from four onward involves doing things that we may not have been aware of that was going to be helpful to us at all. Again, taking that personal inventory, that self-assessment, or again, maybe we were and we were dragging our feet on it. Um, so yeah, if you're in recovery right now and you haven't done a fourth step, we'll get more into it in the next session and such. But by doing that action, is the equivalent of a new pair of glasses.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to also acknowledge as well too is that when somebody is using that analogy of the new pair of glasses and thinking to themselves, I should have done this a long time ago. One thing is worth mentioning and looking at is do we beat ourselves up for not doing it a long time ago? Do we beat ourselves up for for not having the motivation or having the where the discernment to do something. I think that's one thing that's worth looking at as well too. Is that how do we be kinder to ourselves? When we are feeling shame or feeling like we should have been doing this a long time ago. One of the things that I'm working on right now is a production of the play The Wizard of Iz, where the character of Dorothy plays five different characters. One of them is shame, and at the end of the play, what one of the conclusions we come up with is returning to your new life, or being able to see things with the new pair of glasses for the character of Dorothy is being kinder to herself even when she's at her worst, and to treat her feelings as friends. We think of feelings like anger or shame as like these enemies, but when we're kind to ourselves and we try to look for the message underneath those feelings, we can begin to come into the perception that we're right where we need to be, that we don't have to compare ourselves to anyone else, and that where we are, it's as much as this word perfect, I think, gets overused or sometimes exploited. How do we come into the awareness that right where we're at, what we're living in right now, is perfect. So but to embody that, that's the and to come in full awareness of that, that's the challenge. Yes, Micah. Can I please Yes, I will in just a few minutes. Okay. Yeah. So as we go ahead, Randy, your response. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. The dad dog is deciding to howl, so
No problem.
trying to be preemptive on that. He's a bit louder than the pups. So anyway,
Okay, as Randy is tending. You okay, Randy?
so yeah, no, again, here he's just being lonely.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question again, please, Mike?
Yeah. No, I was just going to. I was just going to ask, wrapping up this segment as well too. Someone joining us here for the first time, or who might want to join us in a group like this. I would like to start entertaining questions that we might ask a listener, to kind of get into the spirit of this step three. One of the questions that I'm thinking of is, if we're going from the one perspective about turning responsibility over to God, or what we are aware of as God. The first thing I have is, without putting an interpretation on it or putting a religious spin on it, my question to someone listening to this would be like, well, what comes up for you? What do you feel in your body when somebody asks you to surrender to a God, or what you interpret as God, or what your understanding of God is? Not judging that as right or wrong, good or bad, but just what feelings come up for you when that becomes a consideration. So that's one of the questions I would have for someone listening. Is there anything that you would like to um, process or ask somebody listening, if we wanted to invite them into the conversation?
Well, I would like to kind of tag on to again this understanding of God, because as I joked around how I see it's silly to think that I can understand God.
Mhm.
Okay, folks, again, regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are, in all due respect, no one can understand the vastness of the universe. Okay, and my saying is God is bigger than theology. Okay, whatever your beliefs are and such, again, I'm respectful of them, but to think that you've got it all figured out. But for myself, what was helpful is, Randy, is can you trust your life over to unconditional dignity, respect, kindness? Those type of things. Those themes are within all traditions, spiritual traditions, and such as this nature of this God. Again, the specifics of it. For myself, I had a time when I was suicidal. I don't know if I mentioned this in one of the other sessions, but I'll say it again. So I was suicidal. I was about 7, 8 months into my recovery. I had concluded I couldn't do life as a drunk, or I could do it as a sober man. So perhaps maybe I just shouldn't do life. This was basically, I'm suffering deeply, and this seems to be a realistic solution to end the suffering. And I didn't think I gave any clues. I thought I was holding my cards pretty tightly to my chest, but this gentleman, James, asked me, said, Randy, if you can't love yourself, can you let God love you? And I kind of had my teeth clenched, but he said, yeah, I guess that's not too big of a request to ask. And then he came back with, goes, good. Can you let God love you through this fellowship? Okay. So in reference of AA. Um, and that I didn't know exactly what it meant, but I knew it was, again, is going into these action steps was this thing called willingness. Am I willing to accept guidance as I'm moving forward? I had to no longer say I knew better than anyone else, that I have this all figured out. I don't need any help, kind of thing. So I came to the point of, oh, okay, you know. So if you're struggling and such, whatever thoughts you have about God, please maybe kind of keep them away from this moment of making the decision. Will you accept some care, some love, some help, some assistance as you go through this? How that's going to show up, time will only tell. Okay. But there's a very strong probability it won't be what you're asking for. Because again, I was as emotionally mature as I was when I started using. So I was as emotionally mature as a 12-year-old. So you loving me meant you doing things that I want you to do. Kind of like even when you have kids. If you really love me, you're going to buy me this new iPhone. No, you're not getting the new iPhone, but I do really love you. you know, and and I was very, very fortunate that there was men in my life that, despite myself being still emotionally raw and still having behavior patterns that were less than mature, they hung around. They didn't bail on me. They didn't judge me. They didn't dismiss me. So that's another thing as well, too, is if you're going to accept, kind of discern that people will accept you as you are, not try to fix you. Okay. You're a person, not a project. Okay. Somebody going to come in and save the day and such. We can get into that later and stuff, but that would be a red flag.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that
But
what
if
that
somebody
does is it also interrupts that peer-to-peer horizontal relationship as well too. Absolutely.
Exactly. So that's again kind of tagging on here and stuff. Will you accept love? Will you accept guidance? Will you accept wisdom? But also be mindful in the fact is that you really don't need anybody to fix you. Who
Mhm.
you are, your essence, your soul. Again, this authentic voice. I'll get into it more as far that's who we are underneath all our beliefs and our biases and stuff. It's our, again, lack of a better word, it's who our eternal self is. And when we can connect with it, that wisdom, and allow it to express in our words and our thoughts and our actions and such, that's the miracle. That's that change of perception. And it sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly and stuff, but it will come if you allow it. If you're not like fighting it, having an idea that, yeah, you know what, God's going to fix me. Well, no. What if your concepts of what fixed are not in alignment with what your soul wants? It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I hope those words help you to relax enough to allow this transformation to change. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Well, we're going to take a break here in a moment, but a few questions I would like to leave this section with is, asking the listener, well, what does it mean to make a conscious choice? What does it mean to make a conscious choice to, to follow through on this? Maybe it's just a matter of showing up to the next recording. Maybe it's just a matter of contacting you or contacting me. So what does that look like? What does the conscious choice look like to accept, to accept that? All right, Randy, thank you very much. I'm going to pause our recording here because my son's calling me, and then we'll resume and we'll move on to step 4.